So there's another show that you're going to be in, though. Speaking of D&D games, can you tell me a little bit about that?
So I am going to be playing in the actual play game, The Unfair Idle Champions presents The Unfair Seas, which B-Dave is DMing. And I will be playing Havolar, who is a character from my novels, the Brimstone Angels saga. She's also a playable champion in Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, which I think is delightful because Havolar is a twin, and I feel like if she had meta knowledge of all this, she'd be really irritated that her sister gets center stage in that series, and that Farida got added to Idle Champions first would have just absolutely grated on her. So the fact that Havolar is now in this monster fighting game where she's, kicking butt and taking names, and now she gets to be in this game feels right. But mostly I just think she is fun to play as a D&D character. And that doesn't always port a novel character and a D&D character kind of are serving different purposes. So I'm glad that she fits in that.
Taking a character that maybe you played, or that is an NPC as a dungeon master, or reversing that is completely bizarre.
Yeah.
It does not always make sense. So I'm thankful that you get to take your character that you designed and made in a novel and can still play that character.
It's interesting because there are things you do in a novel because narratively it makes sense that then in a game either there aren't rules for it, or I never gave Havolar magic items particularly in the novels. I think in the last book she gets a pretty significant magic item briefly, but in general, nah. But based on her level, she should absolutely have something.
What are you most excited about for this? Because this is an unusual D&D game as well. Because B-Dave is a fantastic dungeon master. He's really great. But there's a bit of chaos to this. I mean, more chaos than normal.
Right? It is a rather chaotic game. I am excited to play in a game that B-Dave's running because I haven't gotten to do that before. I've played with him when he's playing freely, and that's been great fun. But I've seen and heard very good things, so I'm excited for that.
Couple things you need to know, though. I have to interrupt you. Freely, not as tall as he keeps on claiming he is. He is rather short for a halfling. Yeah. So that's just bring that up whenever you can.
Just mention it. I love that. So when I've played Havolar in previous games that were connected to Idle Champions, I did have Zuni, who is her hellhound, her Nessian warhound. And Zuni understands Havolar, and she can give her commands in Infernal, and she generally is lawful first. She wants orders. She wants to know what she's supposed to do. But Havolar can't talk to her. But Freely has beast speech, so Freely talks to Zuni for Havolar, and now they have this little bond.
It's kind of like knowing if someone knows how to talk to your puppy.
Right? Yeah, I played Founders and Legends. I played with Vitka. And we had a great dynamic where Havolar tends to, if she sees badass women doing something she doesn't know how to do, she's like, I want to be exactly like you. Nice. I want to pick up this skill, occasionally to her detriment. When you decide you want to learn from a Jentarum assassin, you might find out that she's not the best person actually. But Black Viper and Havolar had kind of a big sister, little sister thing going. That was quite fun. I recently played on Dungeon Drunks with B-Dave and Mark Meer. So I got to play with Baloth as well. Havolar got to ride on his flying carpet, which was very exciting.
And Lauren Urban, right?
Yeah, and Lauren, she was wonderful. She was DMing.
Our new community manager.
That's right. That's exciting.
Lauren is fantastic people.
And congratulations to you too, because you just started.
Yeah, I did just start. That's true. Well, congratulations to me.
I haven't played with Krystina.
Right.
And I have to say, I saw the poster that Luke McKay made, and all I can look at is her character. She's so beautiful.
Luke McKay is a fiercely talented artist and
for real?
Comic guy. Working with him has always been fantastic. He's just all around. He's the very best that Canada can offer in terms of Canadians. Which is not a slam, by the way. That's how nice he is and talented. He's wonderful. Is it weird now? You wrote a book about a character, and now you play it in D&D all the time. I mean, not all the time, but you're not like negligent.
It's kind of weird. I definitely never expected it. I should say when I first started, before I wrote Brimstone Angels, which is the first book of the Brimstone Angels saga, I actually played a character who was a tiefling warlock named Farida. And so when the opportunity to write this book, which was originally it was supposed to be a standalone that was about tieflings. I had this idea that was sort of loosely based on things about that character. But like we're talking about, the things you do in a game and the things you do in a novel don't necessarily line up. So I ended up really just sort of stripping her down to the studs and figuring out, like, if I was going to keep these things, I couldn't keep these other things. My character was a Fey Pact warlock. That doesn't go as well for a book about tieflings. It's
right.
Adjacent.
Yeah.
Very fun. I play a Feylock right now and I love her. But it didn't make sense over here. And things like that. So, like I said, I never thought about playing them, but I did sort of play a version of Farida, who was very, very different. I basically kept the name and the class and the race and the idea that she was raised by Dragonborn. And she had a twin sister. Although
nice.
At that point too, like, it's another thing. It's like the other player who played the twin sister, like, that character had her whole own story. She was the main character of her whole story. So she didn't work. I couldn't pull that character over and say this is now the secondary character, right? Because then you're trying to encompass too much. Whereas Havolar assists as a foil to Farida. And then in later books, she sort of gets prominence and gets her own story and her own growth and her own arcs. But you can't just kind of yank that over and build the book the right way. Total tangent. But yeah, it's weird.
I like the tangents.
It's like, you've watched my show. You know what this is like. It's all tangents.
Oh, don't worry.
Tangents all the way down.
Yeah, you're in good company.